We now bring you the news on Tuesday, August the 4th, from Tokyo. I'm Keith McFarlane.
And I'm Yoko Sarai.
In our top stories, foreign ministers from ASEAN member states have discussed China's increasing maritime activities in the South China Sea.
Hundreds of people have died in incidents caused by heavy rainfall in a number of Asian countries.
And officials at Japan's meteorological agency on Tuesday began using a new system for issuing warnings of volcanic eruptions. Now, the news in detail. Foreign ministers from member states of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations have discussed China's increasing maritime activities in the South China Sea. The ministers opened their meeting in the Malaysian capital of Kuala Lumpur on Tuesday. They discussed China's land reclamation work in the Spratly Islands in the South China Sea and other maritime activities. The Philippines, which is in dispute with China over the island chain, called for a joint statement to be released at the close of the ministerial meeting to include sharp criticism of the reclamation work. The Philippines said China's maritime activities have caused strain and conflict in the region. But some countries are wary of alienating China. So it remains to be seen whether ASEAN members will be able to take concerted action. The ministers have, however, confirmed that they will fast-track a legally binding code of conduct to address territorial disputes in the South China Sea.
Hundreds of people have died in accidents caused by heavy rainfall in a number of Asian countries. In eastern and northeastern India, heavy rain has continued due to a cyclone that approached late last month. In the country's west, heavy rain has continued off and on for about 2 weeks. India is in the monsoon season. Indian authorities say about 200 people have been killed and nearly 10 million have been affected by the downpours. On Tuesday, a 4-story building collapsed in the western state of Maharashtra, leaving 12 people dead. Local police say the collapse was caused by days of heavy rain. Neighboring Pakistan has also been hit by heavy rain since last month. Pakistani officials say 118 people had died in floods and landslides as of Monday. They say more than 800,000 have been displaced or affected in some way. In China, unstable atmospheric conditions are causing localized downpours in inland areas. State-run China Central Television says 9 people, including a number of tourists, were swept away by a flooded river on the outskirts of Xi'an in Shanxi province on Monday. It reported that 6 were confirmed dead and 3 are still missing. In a mountainous area of Qinghai province, a resident captured on video the moment when a massive rock fell onto a road on Saturday. Floods washed away houses and cars in other areas of the province on Monday. Myanmar has also been hit by cyclone-triggered heavy rain. Government officials said on Monday that 46 people have died and 200,000 have been evacuated from their homes.
Japan will provide relief supplies to Myanmar, which has been hit by widespread flooding following weeks of heavy rain. The government is to provide almost $150,000 worth of supplies, including blankets and mattresses, through the Japan International Cooperation Agency. The aid offer comes in response to Myanmar's appeal for international assistance to provide temporary shelter and clothing for affected people. The heavy rains have also affected Pakistan, prompting Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to inform his Pakistani counterpart, Nawaz Sharif, that Japan is ready to provide aid upon request.
Officials at Japan's meteorological agency on Tuesday began using a new system for issuing warnings of volcanic eruptions. The move comes after Mount Ontake in central Japan erupted last September, killing 58 people. Officials say the system will send out an alert to hikers and local residents when there are indications that an eruption has just occurred. The warning network covers 47 volcanoes that are under constant surveillance. The agency will issue a warning within about 5 minutes of an eruption. Special attention will be paid to volcanoes that have not erupted for some time and those where a large-scale eruption follows a smaller one. Warnings will be triggered by footage from surveillance cameras and volcanic tremors, among other indicators. But the agency will not issue a warning when a volcano that has already erupted emits material in a similar state or when signs of an imminent eruption cannot be confirmed. The warnings are to be sent in the form of mobile phone messages via smartphone apps and over local public announcement systems. The system is not perfect, however, as public and mobile phone services are not available in some areas.
You are listening to NHK World, Radio Japan, broadcasting from Tokyo.
In today's edition of Insight, we hear the comments of NHK's Toshiyuki Kusuya about possible danger posed to humans by carbon nanotubes. These are microscopic cylindrical carbon molecules with great strength and the ability to conduct electricity. They are used in a range of applications, such as lithium-ion batteries. It was recently reported at a meeting of Japan's health ministry that one type of carbon nanotube can cause cancer in mice, which has raised concerns about the possible effect on human health.
細長い針状のタイプが空気中に浮遊している環境を作っているのは、つまりネズミですね。
Scientists reported an increased risk of cancer in mice that were exposed through inhalation over a period of 2 years to a specific type of carbon nanotube that resembles needles. The result is drawing worldwide attention as the first long-term experiment on carbon nanotube exposure. The nanotube used in the study has a similar shape to that of asbestos fibers. This material is known to cause lung disease and cancer when inhaled, and it has long been suspected that some carbon nanotubes might be similarly toxic. The Japanese government plans to gather information on other types of carbon nanotubes because researchers believe the risk of cancer varies greatly depending on the type of carbon. The goal is to draw up guidelines to prevent workers from being exposed to hazardous material, which would be the first of their kind. The Japanese manufacturer of the carbon nanotubes used in the recent study halted production during the experiment. Only a limited amount of this type of nanotube is in circulation. Businesses that handle dangerous nanotubes will be required to take safety measures to protect workers. At the moment, carbon nanotubes are not used in a way that puts the general public at risk of exposure, but there is known risk. In Europe, debate is underway on the labeling of consumer products containing nanomaterials. Advances in the field are forcing us to consider risks these new materials might pose to humans.
In today's edition of Insight, we heard from NHK's Toshiyuki Kusuya about the possibility of cancer associated with the use of nanotube technology.
Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi says European countries need more foreign investment as well as austerity measures to achieve economic growth. Renzi, now visiting Japan, made the remark in an interview with NHK on Tuesday. He said it's good that the European Union has agreed to begin talks on a new support program for Greece, as this will help prevent confusion. He then referred to acquisitions of Italian firms by Japanese companies, noting that not only cost-cutting measures, but also more foreign investment is vital to grow the European economy, which has been showing signs of recovery. Renzi also said Italy cannot by itself deal with the influx of migrants and refugees reaching the country from Africa. He said large-scale investment in Africa from other regions and countries such as Japan is important, as job creation could keep people from leaving their homeland.
The U.S. territory of Puerto Rico has failed to make full payments on its public debt. This prompted credit ratings agency Moody's to issue a statement saying Puerto Rico has defaulted. Puerto Rico's government-backed financial institution and others said on Monday that they paid less than $630,000 out of the $58 million in bond payments that were due on Saturday. The territory's fiscal crisis surfaced in June when officials said they were unable to repay $72 billion in public debt. They urged selling deadlines and agreed to debt reduction. Analysts at Moody's have expressed concern that the U.S. terminals will likely not be able to pay back other debts that are coming due in future. It's unclear how the problem will be resolved, as U.S. federal bankruptcy law doesn't cover territories such as Puerto Rico. Market watchers are worried about a possible impact on financial markets and Puerto Rican bonds are included in many U.S. financial products. The territory's bonds have been popular because of their preferential tax treatment and high yields.
Workers at Japan's crippled Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant are preparing to remove fuel rod assemblies from a cooling pool at the facility's No. 3 reactor building as part of the process of decommissioning the plant. The workers found damaged fuel rod assemblies after removing a piece of machinery that had fallen on them during the 2011 disaster at the plant. They're now checking whether the government can affect their plan to remove spent fuel from the pool. The damage was caused by a 20-ton mechanism for moving fuel rods into and out of the pool, which is located on the building's top floor. The machinery was removed on Sunday, more than 4 years after a massive earthquake and tsunami caused meltdowns at 3 of the plant's reactors. The fuel rod assemblies were checked for damage once the mechanism was removed. It was found that the metal casings on 4 assemblies had been distorted. Radiation levels in the pool indicated that the fuel rods contained within the assemblies are unharmed. The plant's operator is now studying ways to handle the damaged assemblies as they attempt to empty the pool. Removing fuel rod assemblies from the cooling pools is an important part of the decommissioning work at the plant. More than 1,500 assemblies of spent fuel are still in place at 3 of the facility's reactor buildings.
Japan's monetary base hit a record for the 12th straight month at the end of July. Bank of Japan officials say the total value of the Japanese currency in circulation stood at 325.7 trillion yen, or about $2.6 billion. That's a gain of about $5.5 billion since the end of June. The monetary base includes cash in circulation and deposits that commercial banks hold at the central bank. The BOJ aims to expand the amount at a rate of more than $640 billion a year to reach its 2% inflation target. The central bank's aggressive monetary easing program includes the purchase of government bonds and other financial assets to pump money into financial markets. Even so, consumer inflation is hovering at about 0% year-on-year, due in large part to falling crude oil prices. BOJ officials believe inflation will rise to about 2% by around mid-2016. Analysts are waiting to see if prices will start to pick up from the end of this year, as the officials predict.
A naval flag thought to have belonged to the Japanese battleship Mikasa is returning home 70 years after it was taken as a souvenir by a U.S. Marine. NHK has learned that the naval ensign was discovered in Arizona. The 92-year-old veteran had the flag in his keeping and is now offering